What's going on, sports card fiends? Hopefully you guys are having a wonderful day, and today we're here with a video on what the most important factor is currently when buying sports cards. If you've been a part of the hobby for a while, you probably know what the answer is going to be, but I'm going to talk about the PSA backlog and why that is the biggest factor in most everything we've seen in the hobby this year. You know, a lot of people have their own opinions. I mean, definitely, obviously, COVID lifting and a lot of people just getting back to doing what they're doing more has caused less demand, while at the same time, one of the bigger problems is that PSA is giving so many cards back that there's still a lot of supply to be sold. So right now, we're getting towards a time where there's going to be a lot of supply hitting the market, and will there be enough people to pick that up? I don't think so. Markets will probably go down a little bit more in certain areas where there's a lot of cards, and that offers opportunity. So this is both a bad and a good thing, and that's kind of what we've seen this year, is that give and take. I have a video a couple videos back talking about how I've already seen everything I really would like to see out of sports cards and Pokemon cards and collectibles, TCGs, all this. I've seen the support that I guess I need long term for this type of stuff. Obviously, you're buying it for yourself, you're having a great time with it, but at the same time, it would be nice if one day, you know, there are other people that value it the same. And with this year, with all these people sitting at home and with all this money, we got a preview of what will be one day, what people will enjoy and what they'll want. And so you already kind of know that. Now, a lot of regular people have filtered back out, and a lot of the backlog's coming back. So, personally, I'm very inclined to start buying. However, there are a lot of factors that you have to consider, and that's what I'll get into right now. So the first point that is pretty important, in general, I would say that buying at a stabilization point is much better than buying into the falling knife. Whenever prices are dropping rapidly on something, obviously it depends on what card you're looking at and how that card's trending, but if a card you're looking at currently is just falling off a cliff, what I would say is it's much better to wait it out and see where that stability takes place, because even if it stabilizes a little bit higher than the current price, at least then you can have confidence in the item you're buying. Like right now, it's hard to have a lot of confidence in the cards, which is, again, why people typically stray away. And I understand whenever markets are doing really well, everyone wants to hop in, they want to, get their gains. And whenever markets are doing bad, everyone wants to leave, they want to get rid of their toxic assets in theory and just hop off. And so really you should be kind of buying in subtly with each fall of the knife and eventually buy in a good bit once it stabilizes. But point being, don't just buy in a ton at one point during the falling knife in hopes that you are the savior at the bottom, because odds are you probably aren't, and then you're going to have a lot of risk in whatever you have currently bought. The next important factor is focusing on PSA dates and how far they are through the backlogs. Currently, I believe they are all the way through August of last year, essentially. And so what that means is, depending on the market that you're in, you can get an idea as far as what kind of cards are there. So personally, if they're getting through August to September, there's going to be a lot of Prism cards getting graded, probably base cards that you could find very, very cheap in soccer. Do you want those cards? I'm not sure, but you might be able to find some snipes here or there that are definitely worthwhile, because in a market like this where everything's down and PSA's pumping cards back, people are probably just selling cards for whatever they can honestly get for them. And so you can be that guy kind of getting snipes here and there on eBay, and I think it would be a great play. But by focusing on the backlog, you can get an idea in terms of what's going to be coming back and kind of what that aligns with. One important factor of this, I would say, is just focusing on some of the grails and kind of higher tier collectibles that you want to buy sooner, because typically you want to buy those things sooner because they're going to be harder to attain later anyways. But in this case in particular, PSA is going to have gotten through a lot of the higher end cards at this point and be getting through them more so than the lower end bulk. So whenever you are looking at PSA as someone that has all these cards that basically the market still has to eat up, they're going to get through the high end cards a lot quicker than they'll get through the low end cards. So you're going to want to focus the high end stuff, and then eventually the low end stuff will start getting pushed back in pretty high supply, and at that point you can then buy up some of that. So essentially you're just kind of following where the supply is coming from, and if you do that, I think you're on the right path. Another important factor is you're going to want to focus on items that just cannot easily be replaced, whether that be because they're just worth too much monetarily, they're too rare, they're too this, they're too that. Whatever reason it is, you want to be getting items that are just going to be hard to replace. And I think that's an overall collectible thing to do. But in particular, in this scenario, whenever more and more supply is going to be getting pumped back, you don't want to have cards that are going to be in that low barrier, because once those get pumped back, the floors are kind of loose on those cards. How far they can fall, who knows? So once the floors kind of get taken out from under them, you could be in a pretty bad spot. So if you have cards that are truly, somewhat rare, unique, collectible, all these things, then you'll have less worry about that, which is ultimately a good thing. And then for the final point, don't overpay for slabbed cards that are in a PSA, BGS, CGC case, whatever, SGC, whatever grader you're using. Don't pay a premium just because grading cards right now is somewhat difficult. We're coming off of basically the most difficult time ever to grade cards, so if you're going to pay that premium now, just know that that's something that might not exist whenever you go to sell the card, or whenever you look at that card later. Its value could depreciate just in the encasement alone, because right now people look at SGC and their subs cost $30, and PSA, if you're going the cheapest route right now, it's $200. Now eventually that'll come down, and that's why prices will also come down of the graded slab cards. But ultimately, like, whenever I see people wanting to buy, an example was somewhat recently, was someone wanted to buy a Thomas Muller PSA 9 2014 graded card, and it was like $70, maybe it's 50 to $70, somewhere in that range. That's the real dead zone in my opinion, because whenever you buy a card like that Thomas Muller that this guy was talking about, it's just, you're not really paying for the grade. Even if you're buying a 10, you can go out and find raw 10s for $10 to $20 cards. Like, they're not hard to find. So paying premiums for graded cards is just insane in my opinion, because, for example, the Thomas Muller guy, he wanted to pay like $70 for a graded 9 Prism. When I told him, I'm like, dude, on eBay right now, I can find like 15 of those cards for you, and they'll just be raw, and you can have so much more. And he was like, well, I just like the encasement. I like knowing that it's a good card. It's going to be hard to get 9s. And I'm like, no, dude, it's not that hard. And even if you got 10 8s, that's still so much more value than 1 9, and that's what people don't think about. It's about value to you. It's about how you value these things. And sure, maybe at the time you value PSA and whatnot, but as you grow into the hobby and as you're kind of here for a while, you'll learn that sure, it's nice to have things graded sometimes. Personally, in my opinion, I think grading's only really great for really high-end cards that, like, are 10s, 9s, really, really good grades, or just really collectible cards that are valued so highly to where grading them makes sense just for kind of that security measure. And when you're buying a $50 to $75 graded card, I don't know why you're doing it. I don't understand what the point is behind it, especially when you can go out and get raw versions at a much higher number. It really doesn't make too much sense to me, and personally I would just like to get that across, that is one of the biggest mistakes I see currently, and if you can avoid that, that is going to save you so much pain later. Because I mean, once these slabs go down, like, sure, they might be worth $50 to $100 now, but once you can grade cards again for 10, 20, $30, and some people say that's never coming back, I think that's silly, because I mean, CGC's been grading comics for pretty cheap forever, and comics are, I mean, one of the biggest collectibles. So it's wild to me. I don't think that, I mean, I'm never putting that premium on graded cards right now, at least for the lower end, and I don't think anyone else should. And this is why that, worrying about where PSA is at in their backlog and how the backlog's going is so important, because the market is almost built on what's coming back from PSA. So whenever you notice that, then you can feel safer in kind of whatever's going on around. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like. Anything you want to let me know, how you feel about the PSA backlog, would love to hear it down below in a comment. And nice little bark from the dog there. If you guys want to see more videos like this as soon as I go live, make sure to subscribe. And with that said, hopefully you have a wonderful day, and peace.